Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefühl and welcome to our first behind the scenes peek at the brand new fifth generation Volkswagen Caddy. So, a bit of a journey here tonight. This is one of the most international cars that Volkswagen have ever produced. 40 years plus and over 3 million units delivered. This is where it all started with the Caddy 1. Well, things have changed quite a lot since then. Come with us and let's see how much they have. £1.85 in width or 73 inches. That is 62 millimeters wider than its predecessor. So what does that mean? Well, this vehicle has a particularly interesting history. It's one of the most international that Volkswagen have ever made because it covers so many different countries in its production. It started off being based on the Golf, then it went on to being based on the Polo, then it went on to being based on the Touran, and now we are to the most modern Volkswagen vehicle that's on offer, the MQB platform that's used for the Golf 8. So, consequently, the dimensions have significantly altered. What you're looking at here is not only aesthetically different, but a very different animal indeed to what's gone before. So, what does that mean in practical terms? Well, as you look at the car, I think the first thing that you notice is that the styling is radically different. Now, to me, the Caddy is and will always be primarily a commercial vehicle. Well, I think Volkswagen understand that, but there's still a significant nod here to bring it into the digital era and to make sure that the vehicle is representative not only of what they want to achieve with it, but also of the multiple different offerings that they have for this car now, which include a lot of personal use as well as professional use considerations. So, when you look at the bottom third here and you see this honeycomb grille, that really feels like a very modern definition as to how you want to approach a commercial vehicle. For my taste, I like the styling, but I am a little worried. To my way of thinking, commercial vehicles should first and foremost be built around practicality. I look at this, there is a huge amount of design, a very expensive looking instrument cluster in the middle, and I can't help but wonder, what does this cost to replace when my new hire drives this into the side of something? Well, fortunately, there are a raft of new assistance systems on this vehicle that should help to keep that only an idea, not a reality. 4.50 meters or 177 inches, the car is now 93 millimeters longer. Again, that's because of the MQB platform. Now, we have to be somewhat selective about what we can film tonight, largely because there are so many people here, and managing to bring you a decent shot that can show you is a little constrictive. So this is the passenger version of this vehicle. But if you're looking at this thinking, well, that's not quite as exciting as I might have liked, maybe I would have wanted something a bit more dynamic in the change, I would caution you to think that the main reason for most of these aesthetic changes that you're currently looking at are aerodynamic. Now, that's actually much easier to see on the panel version of this car, but even with the passenger version, you can see these clean-cut lines that run along the side here. Now, there's been a lot of change with the engines as well, but I think it's well worth pointing out that Volkswagen are claiming 12% more efficient on engine use. Now, if you're looking at this vehicle for commercial reasons, that is not something to be sniffed at. So given that, what are you experiencing back here? Well, I can tell you that the height is now marginally shorter. Overall, a drop of around about this much, 7 millimeters in height. But interestingly, because of the utilization of that new MQB platform, that hasn't, not only has that not affected the internal storage, but you actually experience a bit of a boost as well. More about that when we get round to the back. In the meantime, this is the first time that a Caddy has been available with, of course, as an option, 18-inch alloy wheels. So I don't know how important it is to you to be styling while you're driving around delivering goods, but it's nice to know that the thought's been put in terms of the application for this car from a passenger point of view. And that's what you can see here. This is the fully recognized passenger vehicle. But for me, at its heart, this will always be about its commercial application. And in order to find out more about that, let's take a look round at the back. I think it's well worth mentioning at this point that traditional Volkswagen customers will be familiar with the idea of trend line, comfort line, high line. Those are the traditional way of delineating the layout of the cars and, of course, the way in which they're fitted. Well, that's all gone with this generation of Caddy. The 3 trim levels that are available for this vehicle will be the Caddy, the Life, and the Style. So the Style is the highest trim level, the Caddy being the base or entrance level trim. So just a little adjustment to get used to. I think one of the things, if you are a standard customer for the Caddy, that you will need to adjust to a little bit is there is now an awful lot more on offer. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be limited in terms of how you interact with it, only that whatever it is you want, there is now an option available for you to get it. Now I'm a basic guy. I'll be completely honest. What I like is things that they're most simple. What I like most about the Caddy is the job that it does without all the bells and whistles. And a lot of thought has been put into delivering that in as thorough as a way without you adding option after option after option. But some of those are well worthwhile considering. That's to do with the technical side. We'll get onto that when we get indoors. What I want to show you for now is this massive expanse of rear area here. In load terms, that has a very significant impact in terms of how you can actually utilize this vehicle. Now, this car has been decked out for passengers, so we can see here a 7-seat configuration in the rear. Let me see if I can open this up. There we go. That is an awful lot of room. Now, in real terms, if you want to go with a short wheelbase Caddy, that means 3.3 cubic meters of space. But if you want to go with the long wheelbase, you can get up to 4. Not only is that significantly bigger than what's gone before, but, and this is the important point, because of the new aerodynamics, because of the new use of platform, because of that reduced height, it also comes with a significant reduction in fuel usage. But, and this is the thing that I really like, if you want a commercial long wheelbase vehicle, you also now have a much larger side door, which means you can load 2 full Euro pallets into the side of the car. And that makes a really big difference to an awful lot of people. As you can see here, we're configured to take 7 passengers. And what I particularly like about this experience is that, albeit that this is just the short wheelbase version, you can see you can actually realistically fit 7 people in here. Now, obviously not at the highest level of comfort you've ever experienced in your life, but it's good to know that you can achieve it. And what's nice about the way that this system has been organized is that it's extremely flexible, which means you don't have to spend a lifetime putting seats in, taking them out, and switching over again and again and again. You can actually leave these in here, and as you can see, you still end up with an awfully large amount of load space. Once you get inside is when things really start to change. Now, if you're a commercial buyer looking at all of this thinking, You know what? That's all great, Brian, but what I really want is just a van that does its job. Don't stress. There are still going to be plenty of options for you to get much more basic than what you are currently looking at. What you are currently looking at is the brand new Innovision cockpit. Now, clearly, this is the best that Volkswagen has on offer at the moment. Regular viewers who've experienced the Golf 8 will find this more than a little bit familiar. And for my taste, honestly, I'm quite excited to see this making its way into the world of commercial vehicles. If you're screaming at the screen right now, come on, we don't need that. It's not helpful, it's not useful. Wait. This system comes baked in with a thing called We Connect Plus. Now, why do you care about that? Well, if you're a commercial business owner, then you might concern yourself with the commercial application of the add-on that you can get for this system, which allows direct reporting to you, direct controlling of your fleet, more economic management of who's where, what they're doing, and how that ties in. So one of the things that they dealt with in the presentation tonight, which I'm not 100% convinced of, but I think is very interesting, is that their systems directly report in all the time, which allows you to get, in theory, better traffic responses than using something like Google Maps. Why? Well, of course, Google Maps, or a similar version, is dependent upon real-time access to the internet. This system is built to deal without having that, because a lot of what it uses is already baked in, and it will work with the network to produce updated information. So therefore, they claim that the fastest route between 2 points will always be offered by this system. Now, hopefully we'll have the chance to test that out in real time at some point in the future. But for now, what I can tell you is the two things that massively impress me about the idea of where this car is going to, in the first place, if you do manage a commercial fleet, or even if you are a small business with just 2 vans, you will be aware that the number one thing that happens to you that you really don't want to happen but does frequently is one of your employees having a minor prang in your car. Now, with the assistance systems that are baked into this, and that means 6 brand new ones, including a rear collision assist, which basically allows you to see in your blind spot even when you can't, and also a trailer assist, and that comes in more handy than you might think, then you are much less likely to be having unforeseen accidents. And that's where we tie back in to the honeycomb grille at the front. I very much doubt that having anything fixed on this car is going to be a cheap proposition for you. So the important thing is to know that you reduce your risk. So if the sticker price of a new Caddy seems at first a little bit much to bear, you should factor in what it's going to save you, hopefully, in terms of fuel, in terms of speed and efficiency, thanks to the mapping, and in reduction of lost time due to accidents, hopefully very minor ones, that would have been avoidable if you'd have had the right tech on board. So, why do I say all of that? Well, being a traditionalist with a lot of experience of driving commercial vehicles, I understand that a lot of this looks as if it's here just for show. But what I'm saying is, before you just assume that, have a little look at your cost on your fleet over the past 12 months and ask yourself if really there maybe could have been a lot of benefit delivered if you had had some of these systems in place. Brilliantly, one of the things that the new Caddy absolutely delivers is an ability to be able to get exactly what you're looking for, exactly the way you want it. So, we only have this vehicle today. We hope we'll be able to test a lot more in the near future. But if you have very particular needs, I'm more than certain you're going to be able to find what you're looking for in the new lineup of Caddy. So all of that said, you're likely to be putting more miles onto a commercial vehicle than anything else you own. So attention to detail is really important. And here what we have are brand new seats. And I can tell you, you would think in the modern era that it was pretty common that seats would be really well put together and thought of. And I have to tell you that is not the case. These feel firm and supportive. I'm actually surprisingly low down in this vehicle, well, you would expect it here, but I have stacks of headroom, obviously, here, because this is the very much person-used basis. We have a glass panoramic roof that is now available, stretching the length of the vehicle. Now, that's not a new idea for this class of vehicles, but I am pleased to see Volkswagen embracing that and doing it their way. What it does give me is a massively light, airy and spacious feeling cabin, but one that is also very practical as well. There are large wells in the dashboard here for my documents or just extra things while I'm driving around. Everything feels very clean and very easy to keep clean in the interior. This is a brand new steering wheel, and again, it's a much more familiar experience to a car driver than it would be to somebody driving a commercial vehicle. So, albeit that this is the passenger model, you can get the very same experience in a commercial vehicle. I really have to say, I think they've done a very nice job of making whoever is driving this feel that they are not making a compromise by going with a commercial platform. And I think that's the key for a commercial platform crossover. Really, anyone who drives a vehicle that you buy for them or that you buy for yourself should feel really good about that purchase, because let's be honest, it isn't cheap. I've driven a lot of commercial vehicles in my time, and they were absolutely not as nice as this. That said, this is the top spec. I really am very excited to see the entrance level model as well. But in the meantime, it's very nicely delivered. I feel very comfortable in here. I have everything that I need laid out well before me. My road position is great. And you know what? I'm more than just a bit keen to take it out for a drive. It's a real shame at this point that you can't see Jonas. He is actually tying himself into spaghetti knots in order to be able to bring you this shot. But we really did want to bring you in a little bit more detail the displays here. That is the full driver's digital display, and over here, also 10 inches in diameter, you can see the infotainment system. Now, because this is primarily a commercial vehicle, everything should be based on ease of use. But don't forget that clearly this is just a show model and therefore doesn't function entirely as you might like it to. Now, what I really think is worth pointing out here is that one of the sales features of having a full digital system is that you do have baked into that essentially an app store. At any time, if there is an additional feature, either commercial or personal, that you want to add to your vehicle, you can actually enter the app store that's baked into the car and then buy add-ons. The thing I like about that is it means you're not paying for things you're not going to use and that aren't useful. But over time, you can actually upgrade and change your car. And as a commercial buyer, that's very attractive indeed, because there are certain things you don't necessarily know that you need the first time you take the car out that might actually end up being incredibly useful. For me, it largely comes down to whatever is going to save you the most time and money. That's as a business owner. As a personal owner, I find it really very encouraging that I don't have to be sold on things that I don't necessarily want. And I suspect that this is the way in which the market's moving. I think it will be a much more buy-as-you-want menu system than standardly coming in, paying for a certain level, and then you get the things that are associated with that. So that's my pitch as to why you would want to consider the full digital version. That said, well, you know, like I said, I'm a bit of a fan of commercial vehicles, and this all feels a little bit modern for me. So I'm pleased to see if Jonas brings the camera slightly lower down, there are still lots of very old school, nice personal touches that have been put into this design. Look at this. So you have an inductive charging pad under here, and that's for your phone. But we still need to store things in the same space. Thank you for still giving us a 12-volt charge point right here. And the future comes along with two USB-Cs right alongside it. Once you get in the back, not only do you really appreciate those sliding doors, but you also appreciate the way that things have been finished back here. You really have a huge expanse of light and air, largely because of this panoramic roof that's new for this edition, but also because of the way that the seats have been configured within the vehicle. There is more than enough space. Now, I don't have particularly long legs. Jonas does. But if you look at my knees, you can see that there is still plenty of room for you to adjust, even if you are significantly taller than I am. As far as head height's concerned, well, what would you expect? It's designed to take Euro pallets. So honestly, I don't think there's anyone big enough to make this vehicle feel crowded. Nope, pretty sure even if you play in the NBA, you're still going to have enough headroom. Let's take a closer look at what's powering this thing. Well, I'm very excited to tell you that what you're looking at is one of the diesel engines. There are 3 available at launch, varying in power between 75 to 122 horsepower. There is a petrol, of course, also a 4-cylinder producing 116 horsepower, and that's coming very shortly after launch. Why is that the way it's working? Well, you should be aware that 80% plus of all Caddies currently sold are being sold with diesel engines. So it's hardly surprising that they're launching with those first. The really big news on this is that it comes with twin catalytic converters. That allows for double dosing. You're aware of the blue liquid that we all add to our engines now in order to make them run cleaner. Well, that makes this one of the cleanest diesel engines that is available anywhere for anything. Obviously, after what's gone before, Volkswagen are very keen to ensure that their offerings are as sustainable as they can possibly be. Now, the big question for the Caddy on everybody's lips is, yes, but will there be an electric version? They're still keeping quite tight-lipped about that. I'm not sure if it's going to go full electric for this model, but there will be a hybrid later on. So if that's of big interest to you, then hold on, it's coming. But in the meantime, there will also be a CNG model joining a little bit later on as well. I think this gives you just a little bit of sense with my only concern about the new Caddy, and that is an attempt that very much feels to be being made to be all things to all people. This is the new Pan Americana. Now, I'm sure this is going to have a big loyal following of people who will love this. I just wonder a little bit if in diffusing the brand and making it be so many different things, if there is a benefit there. But you know what? I'm really keen to hear what you think about that. Now, that said, there are some really interesting styling details on this particular model. Largely, as you can see, all of the chrome is gone, all of the obvious body color matching is gone. We now have these black wheel arches, and this has a much more rugged feel. Well, that's not just a styling detail. This thing is also all-wheel drive. So it is a little bit more rugged. You can be a little bit more adventurous with it, and I think the styling suggests that. Is that going to relate to enough people in a strong enough way to form a viable future market? Do you know what? I'm really interested to find out. But before then, I'm very keen to hear what you think about this. I wanted to end with where my heart belongs, and hopefully because of this circus you can get some impression as to why we weren't able to film here the whole time, but I did want to show you this very much. This is the Caddy in its purest form. This is its commercial application. And the reason that this is so interesting to me is specifically because what's been achieved with the aerodynamics here. So you could look at this and say, well, that's flat, it's not all that exciting, I don't really know that that much is happening here, but that belies the extraordinary engineering that's gone into producing this car. Every single detail here, albeit that it might look as if it's not significant, goes into reducing that aerodynamic drag and increasing the fuel efficiency, and that's everything for this vehicle. But not only that, enhanced loading facility, making the space work better, cleaner, more efficiently, all adds up to making this car something that you can really see people are going to wanting to be owning and driving for as long and as successfully as the Caddy's history would suggest. So, what do we think about the new Caddy? He asked in a very echoey, ominous voice. I think it promises a huge amount. Whether it can live up to everything it promises, well, we can only wait and see. But if the 3 million people who've already invested in making this car a success have anything to do with it, then I think the future looks very bright indeed. Well, it would be remiss of us to end the clip without bringing you this. This is the Caddy Vision, and to my way of thinking, if a rapper wanted to own a Caddy, this would be the one they would go for. As you can see, everything here has been pretty stylized, including the nice big black alloys right down to the extensive use of piano black throughout the design. I think it's a good thing that Volkswagen are really considering their customers in a larger base. But you know what? As nice as this is, I'm still always going to be the guy stuck halfway down a motorway sitting in my Caddy, and I'm only going to be asking one question. Am I comfortable, and is this cost effective to drive? I hope that's probably consistent for most owners. Let me know if you think I'm wrong about that. But in the meantime, if you have any comments or questions about anything and we haven't covered it, please put it below. Please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope we'll see you all again soon.